Hi everyone. Today me and Russ are going to be talking about oil pastels. Our objectives are be able to identify and describe characteristics of oil pastels as an art medium, practice and demonstrate skill in oil pastel techniques. So oil pastels were created in 1921 by the Sakura Craypas Company as a more affordable medium for students and for creative expression, because we all know art supplies are expensive. Picasso's influence led to the creation of fine art pastel brand Sennelier, so those are the high-end oil pastels. They come in stick form and they're made of a pigment, a non-drying oil, and a wax. And then the effects can be like oil paint and manipulated with solvents or oils. And since they are made of that non-drying oil, you need to put a fixative or sealer over the top when you are finished, because if you do not, it will forever smear and it just will never dry. So you need to remember that you need to fix it once you're finished. So oil pastel surfaces, they can be used on paper, canvas, cardboard, but something you need to think about is the tooth or texture of the surface, because that's going to affect how your finished image looks. If you have something with a heavier tooth or more texture to it, you're going to be able to layer multiple layers of oil pastel, but you're not going to be able to get a detailed image at all. If you have a smoother surface, you might be able to get a little more detail, but you're not going to be able to layer your pastel as well. So really it's just up to the artist what they prefer to work on. So some characteristics: they have bold colors, really thick textures. They're impressionistic or painterly. You're not going to be able to do any type of detail work with this just because of the nature of the medium. So one of the techniques that we're going to use is just pressure. So if you have a light pressure, you can show the underneath paper color, so you can pick different types of colors of paper to work on. If you use heavy pressure, it's going to create a nice thick layer. So to blend, you can use your fingers. It keeps most of the pastel on the paper, but it is pretty messy. You can use a tissue instead or a little piece of paper towel. It's really good for big areas, but it's going to remove a lot of the pastel, so you kind of have to decide what you want. You can use a Q-tip for really small areas, but again, that can remove a lot of pastel if you're not careful. You can mix a little bit of oil. You can smooth out lines and texture, and you can also thin out the oil pastel to make it almost like a wash. You really need to use this with a brush or a Q-tip. You can even do a little bit on a paper towel. And then last is a solvent. So a solvent is something like turpentine, rubbing alcohol, or what's called mineral spirits. These are things you would normally use with oil paint that break down the oil pastel. So it creates a wash or a really thin layer of it. So it almost turns it into oil paint. And then for this, it does require a brush or a Q-tip. And if you're using a brush with oil pastel, you can't use that brush again with anything else. So our next technique is layering. So when you're layering, you can use another crayon to blend the colors together. You use a lighter color or white to blend on top. And then you can also create different colors by mixing two different hues. So if you're mixing red and yellow, you can blend them together to create an orange. Usually you want to go dark to light. So you're going to fill in the darker values first, then blend on top with the lighter values. So you can see that value scale down there. So I started with the dark and then added the light on top. The reason is you want to keep your dark values intense and you don't want to fade them out too much. But this also comes with practice. So another layering technique is the rule of threes, and I really like this one. So in each area, you want to try to blend or layer at least 3 analogous colors together to create texture and interest instead of just one flat color. You do need to know when to stop. You don't want to overblend it or it's just going to cause like a big muddy mush. So if you overdo it, you can get a palette knife or a toothpick and scrape off some of the excess, and then you can redo it. Stippling is using different dots of colors to create, to color shapes. So it gives texture. When I make dots, I like to make little swirl dots. You can use it to shade or highlight. And you also use the rule of threes with stippling. And I like to use that because then it creates your eye an optical blend where your eye colors them to blends them in together when you step away. Another technique I enjoy is scumbling. So this, instead of dots, you're using squiggly lines and loops layered in different colors. It creates a nice texture. It creates interest and it's vibrant. And also it's another thing you use the rule of threes with. We also have sgraffito. So you're going to layer two colors, then you use something to scratch through. So you could layer colors and then black, or you can layer a light color with a dark over it. You can see in that image down there, they're using a palette knife to scratch out. So this is something that's really good to create details or designs in your work. And it works best though with dark over light, although you can always try light over dark. So your practice. You're going to have 2 practice sheets. Please use newsprint under your work to keep the tables from getting all covered in oil pastels because this is a messy medium. I want you to practice blending techniques and I want you to practice creating spheres. So I have examples in class for you to look at, and I will also have a few demo videos you can watch to kind of see how I do this. When you are finished with these, once you finish each of them, please make sure you check off with me when you're done for feedback. And I can't wait to see what you do. Good job, guys.